This feels like Outer Wilds. A really strong first impression, an interesting premise. But then I tried to hide a body, fell off a desk, and I watched a bunch of Welsh guards ignore their dead comrade like it was just another Monday, presumably a bank holiday? We really need to talk. So I've now played Atomfall all the way through. I have unlocked multiple endings, and by multiple I mean 2. I've explored every single area of the map, I've explored areas I didn't have to, I've done optional side missions and side questing, and I'm ready to give you my final impressions. So, the game starts well. The opening dialogue, tight, intriguing, just enough to make you sit forward a little like, okay, maybe this has something. And when you first step outside, in all credit, it lands. The world hints at a forgotten history, something just out of reach, and that carries you for a while. The basis in reality, the Windscale Fire of 1957, gives us this solid foundation in which to work, and the devs initially do a very, very good job at just drawing us in and giving us something that we might really grab hold of. It's got that Outer Wilds feeling, not in scale, but in mood. It's like you're on the edge of something worth discovering, and that promise really holds for the first hour or two. And then it sits down, has a cup of tea, and quietly forgets it ever made you a promise at all. And the thing is, that promise I mentioned is not empty. There's real craft in places. The introduction's not just functional, it's purposeful. The writing has focus, it sets up tension, without info dumping or trying to pretend it's cleverer than it is. The setting itself deserves credit. It's not just another wasteland or space colony, it's a sort of retro-futurist Britain. Rusted, melancholic, half-abandoned, half-surveilled, visually distinct, conceptually ambitious. Imagine George Orwell hosting an episode of Time Team, and for a while, that uniqueness really carries the experience. The world building, almost there. Narrative tension, designed with real intent, little environmental details suggesting storylines you might uncover, and it feels like a lot of the characters you meet have their own true stories, their own way of being, and that personality is gonna give you something to hold on to later as you grow to love, hate, whatever it might be, this group of people. And credit where it's due, the game offers really incredible customization options, especially around difficulty, and the accessibility features too are solid. Really, 2025, it's about time we start taking this as gratis almost, but they do a great job and I think we really have to give them credit for that. It feels like a game that wants people to be able to play it, and that's worth recognizing. But it's also what makes what follows so frustrating. It's not a failure from the start. It's a slow leak of momentum, letting go of everything it had going for it. Pretty much every game mechanic feels undercooked. Combat is dull. Bland animations, sluggish feedback, AI that might as well be furniture, enemies barely reacting even when their friends drop dead next to them. It's like the game trained these characters, the residents of the world, to behave like tourists and not threats, specifically British tourists, quietly appalled, ultimately non-confrontational. Traversal feels like you're fighting the terrain itself. If a spot wasn't specifically designed to be climbed or vaulted over, expect clumsy awkwardness. No slide, no flow, just bumping into geometry like it's 2008 and we're playing Resident Evil. I once lost a full minute to a fence. Me and the fence. A standoff. One-on-one. We locked eyes. Metaphorically, of course, because it's a fence. And eventually I gave up. Not because I couldn't get over it, but because I felt like I shouldn't. Like the fence had somehow made a good point. The UI and the menus, early 2010s, stiff, inelegant, clearly not built for the player's convenience. Please give me a sort button. And you're constantly reminded you're in a system, not a world. What starts as intrigue just decays into friction, obstacles, and boundaries. But it clicks at some point that this isn't Fallout. It's not survival. It's not exploration. It's barely a game. It's a mystery box. And that's fine in theory, but the real problem is here. It's a mystery box wrapped in the skins of all those other game genres, and none of them fit. The combat, weak, survival elements, barely functional, traversal, clunky, exploration, surface deep, quite literally in many areas. And you keep peeling back the layers, expecting at some point there'll be something, anything that justifies the noise. But what you get is a magician, pulling scarves from his sleeve, one after another. And you wait patiently because surely this is the build-up to something, a reveal, a surprise, a rabbit. But it's not. It scarves all the way down. And then he bows, not sheepishly, not apologetically, with conviction. And you applaud, But not because you're impressed, but because the lights have come up, and you're not sure what else to do. You applaud because the alternative is thinking about the 25 quid you just spent on the ticket, and the parking, and the babysitter. And now you're clapping. You don't even know why anymore. It's underwhelming. The mystery isn't profound, haunting, or particularly clever. It's just there. A quiet thud, where you expect an echo. And then there's the setting. Or rather, the performance of one. This veneer, this film. For a game that leans so heavily into British identity, it's strange how thin that identity actually feels. We get the accent, we get tea and cakes, and not much else. And there's more to Britain than regional values and nostalgic paraphernalia. But here it feels like someone just mashed the UK into some sort of digital aesthetics blender and hit pulse. The result's not immersion, it's shallow. The guards all sound either vaguely northern, or somehow like they were recruited from a group of Welshmen who apparently all arrived on the same train from Porthcawl. And this begs the question of why most of the bandits also sound like they're from Wales. Was there some sort of Snowpiercer situation on the train, the haves and the have-nots, who later become the guards and become the bandits? No, of course there wasn't. Because this doesn't feel like a coherent world. Honestly, at some point it simply starts to feel like a casting office found on the motorway service station on the M5. A dozen actors, tray of sandwiches, a clipboard labelled British vibes in it. One Scouse accent so thick it's tearing my eardrums apart, and I swear another one was slipping into Australian occasionally. There's no one there to stop him. No one could. And so the illusion just starts to break. Not in any dramatic way, but in the quiet drip of details that don't seem to mesh together. And it really brings me down to say that sadly it's not bad world building. It's unbothered world building, which for a mystery game is kind of a problem. And the end, that was... It's the kind of ending that just makes you question whether the game really knew what it was doing. Not just in terms of its narrative and the characters, but the structure, the tone, the intent. Where are we going with this? What's the story we're telling? And where's it going to bring us? All the early promise, the atmosphere, the mystery, hinting at something larger, none of it ends up leading anywhere satisfying. Not thematically, certainly not mechanically, and not emotionally. I've tried to. I went through the multiple endings, again, only the 2, but it felt a bit like DMing on Instagram with someone for 6 weeks. Another DMing on Snap for 6 weeks, another one on WhatsApp, sending another and just getting it delivered, never replied. Eventually thinking that the ending might have ghosted you, but honestly at that point you're probably relieved. Because no matter which one you pick, you always end up in the same place. Sat alone at the bar, wondering what went wrong. No answers. Just a guy behind the bar who shrugs and says, "Yeah, a lot of people come here." Then he pours you a drink and he asks if you want the loyalty card. It's not just a weak ending, it's a model of how not to design one. It had that Outer Wilds feeling. That sense of mystery, momentum, standing on the edge of something worth discovering. And for a while it seemed like it might go somewhere. But then that promise evaporates. And what you're left with is a game stitched together from undercooked systems, surrounded by a world that gestures at meaning, but doesn't really ever deliver it. It's not offensively bad, it's just hollow. And that's worse, because it could have been something. Those first few hours of promise disappear. Instead, it's just a handful of decent ideas, trapped in a mystery box no one really knew how to open. Someone's lost the key, someone else has eaten the instructions, and we're just standing around pretending that's fine. Now the box is humming. It's probably nothing. Or it could be the DLC. If you've made it to the end of the review, thank you so much for having listened to us. I really wish I had a lot more positive to say about this game, but it's going to end up being marked down as one of those which just had so much to offer, but ultimately never came through. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, don't forget that we do have a weekly podcast that we're dropping on Fridays for the moment. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for having come around and had a listen. Take care, and of course don't forget to try this for yourself if you ever get the chance, but I would recommend if you can play it via Game Pass or waiting for a sale. Either one of those options will do you nicely. This has been Con from the Gamers Advocate. Thank you so much, have a great day, and I'll see you again.